So you said you was a teacher for 25 years, and then went
Yes.
in the legislature.
Yes.
Uh, lost, didn't do well as a legislature teacher.
Hey, it was fine. It was rewarding. We got a lot of things accomplished. We took control of the legislature, but
Financial.
it was just financially it was debt, but we made it.
You went into the House first,
Yes,
right?
I was in the House for 4 years and then the Senate for 3 terms.
What do you think the biggest piece of legislation you got accomplished is?
Oh, absolutely, no question. We had a road bill in West Mobile that many of my friends and students had passed away on because it's a very dangerous road, and it took some bills to. Some of the environmentalists had some concerns over going through the water route for the city drinking water, and I had some bills that were passed to alleviate their concerns, and we got it passed, and then it then they sued again and it delayed it 10 years, and now it's finally going to be built in the next 2 years. So the biggest impact on the people of my district was that. I also had a bill that increased the penalties for those that are heavily, you have most states you had those who are drinking and driving, you had a penalty, and those who were excessively drinking and driving was a higher penalty. In Alabama, there was no difference. And I passed a bill that made a difference and increased the penalties for those who were excessively drunk, and also created it called it a crime for eluding the police. A lot of our cities were having a lot of trouble with people, innocent bystanders being run over because police chases, and lo and behold, we didn't even have a law against that. All they could charge was for reckless
Wow.
endangerment. So that one, hopefully, it has saved some lives over the last few years.
I know the bridge you're talking about, Mobile. I've heard a lot of poor kids, all the kids get killed. And that thing with eluding the police, because I've heard that a lot of times the police would have to actually tell them to stand down because they was worried that they're not
Right.
going
Sure. And once the criminal knows that will happen, increases the chance of them trying to get away.
Now, was you in office when I'm pretty good friends with Troy King, and he told me that he had passed something where I think child pornography used to be somebody got one count, but now he said he got like 177 counts against one person that he started getting where they got charged with every single count they had. I thought that was a pretty big deal.
Yeah, that sounds good. I don't remember that piece of legislation. Of course, we have 1,500 bills introduced every year. I don't remember it specifically, but I know he did have a few packages of bills each year for us to work on.
I was the friends with Bill Baxley. I still know him this day. I have lunch from the first year. I love Bill, and I love. What was it like working with Lucy? Because I remember one time they said she didn't have a quorum, and she said, y'all wasn't here on time, and meeting was over with. And they said Lucy was just a trip to work with down there.
Yeah, well, I was still in the House at the time, but I remember vividly when that happened. I know a lot of House members were upset because they killed a day for all of us in the legislature when that happened. But I remember that day, that when that happened that day. But again, it was when I was in the House.
You served one term in the House and then went into the Senate, right?
Yes. When I got to the Senate, Folsom Jr. was the lieutenant governor, and then the next 2 times, well, one was Kay Ivey, and then she served a partial term before she left to become governor.
Let me ask you a question. It's related to that when Governor Folsom was serving lieutenant governor. I'm friends with one of his son or one of his nephews, and it was January of that year, and I was just so pumped. And I was like, being a political junkie, man, we're gonna have Wallace versus Folsom. He says, I don't think it's gonna be Wallace. We're here. It's this guy in Mountain Brook. I was like, what? What was it that killed Wallace in that race?
Wallace, I don't remember. I was so much into my race. I was outspent 3.5 to 1 and struggling to try to win. I did win, but I didn't keep up much with anything that was also going on. I think Mo Brooks was also in that race too.
In that race, Luther almost won that runoff because I remember the first poll they had like in late 2005. Wallace had this. Mo Brooks wasn't even registered a percentage, but I'd read that Wallace had a lot of populist tendencies like his father, and he did a lot to make the retailers business associations mad, and they worked pretty hard. But I just remember that race. Now you said spent 3.5 times one. I was talking to my interviewed Jim Murphy, who was my rep here when I was a kid, and he said that he ran his first race in '94 for $10,000. How much does a state or Senate race in Alabama cost now?
It depends on who's running against you. I mean, some of these races have gotten up to $1 million, literally $1 million. But if your opponent's spending, 300,000, you can actually win with 100,000 if you can really get out there and get volunteers and knock on doors. You can actually knock on doors in a state Senate race. Whereas when you get statewide, knocking on doors is not going to make much of a dent. And of course, I had a base. All of the House district just about all the House district was in the Senate district. So I was already representing a third of the district already. So I was able to spend more time on the other 2/3 and knocking on doors and get my name out. And that made a difference.
Now, I'm going to ask you a tough question, and I'm not,
all right,
not faulting you or any other politician for this, because I track things, and one of the things I love to look at is follow the money. Why does an AEA, and I think it's actually the Nursing Home Association, how do they get so much power in the state?
Oh, they give money to campaigns.
Yeah, but I mean,
and they can go after you too. I mean, AEA is very powerful. They have a journal. They call it the AEA Journal. It's a newspaper, goes out to all their members. We're talking about, I don't know, 100,000. I don't know how many members they have. And for many years, we had passed bills and or have our pictures, Republicans were on there as the bad guys. And if there was Democrats that were also voting for the same bill, they were left out. they didn't put their names on there. I mean, it was literally that bad. But it's a very, very effective way to get your message out, and they were able to do that. So a lot of people don't want to cross AEA, and they do give a lot of money. I never accepted any money from AEA in any of my races, but a lot of them have on both sides of the aisle.
Like I said, I don't fault nobody for it, but I just know I was kind of semi-advising a lady a couple years ago, and she said, "Oh my God, Alpha endorsed my opponent," and I was like, "Well, okay, calm down. I mean, this is not something you can't overcome, if you work hard enough." Mm-hmm. Now, one thing that bothers me is, I know some stuff gets done, but we've got a legislature controlled by the Republicans, Republican governor, and it seems like we can't get anything done in Montgomery. What's happening?
Oh, they get a lot done. They probably passed. I don't know. They probably passed 300 bills. I'm sure they usually pass 200, 300 bills. They're getting a lot done. A lot of times there's some bills that we're interested in, they don't get done. And of course, people get angry about that, and they don't really remember all the bills that are positive that are passed. But there are a lot of things that do get done. Every year, every session I've ever been in, I was disappointed that there were some bills that were not passed, but they do get a lot done.
I mean, we're still almost last in education. Mm-hmm. We're last in income. We're losing population. I mean, what are they doing that's getting done this moving the state forward?
Oh, well, you need to talk to the current legislator. I haven't been in there any specific bills that have been passed, in the last 4 years. I don't know any specific bills because I haven't been there, but I know there are a lot of, bills that are passed to cut red tape for businesses, to encourage businesses and folks to come in, and those kinds of bills. But as far as specifics, I couldn't tell you.
But last year they wasted, which I thought this could have been passed in an hour. I mean, they wasted so much on that transgender athlete bill. And I was like, well, that should have been passed in 30 seconds and signed.
Yeah.
This is out the door. Okay, so another tough question for you, which I mean, I don't think it's tough that we're all talking about it. Lottery. Are we ever going to pass that?
Well, it's about 20 times more complicated than what people think, because passing a lottery, a lot of them that say they want a lottery aren't really for a lottery, because it will adversely affect the casinos in their district. And so they fight vigorously against that. So you have a combination against those who are against any form of increasing gambling, and those who feel like it would adversely affect their gambling. And that's why it's not, that's a very small nutshell being put in, but it's far more complicated than anybody realizes.
I'm both against the one in 98 and the ones that I see coming up. It's like, they promise, okay, 85% of it's going to kids, pre-kindergarten, college education. And then I look at it, it's like a pyramid scheme. I mean, everybody's got their hands in the cookie jar.
Sure. And that has a lot to do with it. In the last one, they passed it through the Senate. It got to the House, and at the last moment, the Democrats, who they needed their vote, asked for more and asked for more and asked for more, and they just threw up their hands and said, "Okay, well, I guess we'll do it another year." So that's what happened to it last year.
Now, I was kind of actually happy to see Alabama move forward on this issue right here. I mean, I think the whole country should, because to me the laws are draconian. But when are we going to finally pass and legalize marijuana and tax it?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not for that. I'm not for that at all. I'm just, they're going to eventually do it, but I mean, they went to this medical marijuana last year, but eventually I'm sure they're going to do it. That's where I think every state that's ever done the legal marijuana, they did the everybody gets high marijuana the next year or the year after. So it's coming.
California didn't. I was surprised they passed it down. But I mean, if we allow people to go buy alcohol at the store, I don't know why we can't do that. I mean, but I guess that's just, that's the libertarian side in me. On it. We all got different views. But the medical marijuana bill they passed, it's not as strong as some of the other states, was it? I mean, I just remember there was a lot of limitations that they put on that one. I can't really tell you that. The gas tax, is this thing ever going to go away?
No, no tax has ever really gone away in the history of America, really. Once it's in, it's in. It's not going to go away. For one, it's very difficult to pass a bill. It's very difficult to pass a bill, especially one with so many folks that were for it. No, it's not going away. There's no way they're going to. No, that's not even breathed by anybody in Montgomery.
All right, now I got something for you.
All
right. So, since I've been looking at this, I've been looking at this money missing here, money not being accounted for here. So I called the state treasurer's office and said, "Hey, who writes the checks?" They said, "Oh, well, you need to call the state finance office." And they said, "No, call the comptroller. No, call the auditor." So who is responsible for keeping up with the money that seems like comes up missing every time? I think there's $2 million still missing.
That's the examiners of public account that do that. The auditor's office is more or less an inventory of state property, like desks and cars and equipment that's worth more than $500.
Okay.
But that's the examiners of public account.
Okay, well, that makes a good deal. Well, now a couple years ago, there was one. There's one to do with the state auditor's office. Why would they want to do with the constitutionally elected office?
I think it was more of a personal thing. A lot of members of the legislature didn't like some of the things that the current auditor Jim Ziegler was saying and doing, and so they wanted to. That's my understanding. I haven't talked to him or asked him about it, but that's what people seem to think, that it was being vindictive against him.
So, 2018, you was going to run for lieutenant governor.
Yes.
Why'd you pull out?
Well, I served my 3 terms in the Senate, and I really enjoyed being in the Senate. My 2 predecessors served 3 times and got out. So it was time for me to move on and do something different. And so I decided to run. Everything was going great till a millionaire and a billionaire jumped in the race, and it was all over pretty much for me. I mean, when you're outspent 11-1 and 10-1, it's tough to win a race when they're on TV and you're not.
You know, but I'm going to keep hammering this away. I believe if people will do this, the lady the other night did that. She had 400 views in 7 hours. I know you're right with that, but I think a lot of things with the traditional family sitting down at TV is going away because when I was coming up, Facebook, social media, YouTube, there's so many other channels out there.
Mhm.
You can still reach people.
Yeah, you reach them, but I had 3,000 shares on my initial commercial, and it was like 4 or 5 times more than any video that my opponents did. But when they saw their commercials on television constantly, yeah, there are a lot of young folks, a lot of millennials might not be watching as much TV, but the old folks that vote, they're watching TV, and they were heavily influenced. In fact, one of my opponents was in a poll. It was at 2%. This is 4 months to the day before the election. 2% name ID. He wound up out 70,000 more votes than me. And I
Yep.
was, it was everything in that election, everything. Of
I
course,
was,
AEA endorsements and Alpha endorsements, that made a big deal too, but television was everything.
I was de facto advisor to a lady 2 years ago running for PSC, and I told her, I know you've got to go out and meet the party bosses. That's important. I told her, I said, look, sometimes you're driving 6 hours to talk 2 minutes in
Yep.
front of him. I
Yep.
said, get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, go hit these McDonald's. I said, there's 260-year-old men and women down there that's holding court every day. That's where your voters are at. And I said, spend that time there and go talk to those people because those are the ones saying, by God, we got to do something, and those are the people that's going to show up to vote.
Yeah, they are. That's true.
And that's who you need to connect with. So
yeah, and if you're in a running for a state house or state senate, you're gonna get a lot more mileage out of that. But statewide, that's several thousand visits to the McDonald's to make a dent in it. Really.
her position was she was head of the Shelby County Women's Party, and so I'm like, Shelby's Jefferson County. So you start locking those 2 counties down right there.
Sure.
You start turning some votes. So after being out of it 4 years, what made you decide to get back in it for this office?
Oh, me? I really miss serving the people of Alabama, and I had people encourage me to run even more than they were encouraged me to run in previous times, and so I decided to do it. I thought that in my previous election, when I ran for Congress in 2002, when I ran for Senate in 2006, when I ran for Lieutenant Governor, it was the most expensive races in the history of those offices, and I was the least spender in those races. And I thought, surely this should not be a problem. I can raise adequate amount of money and be competitive. And once I got in the race, I had an opponent that put in $300,000 of his own money. So I'm snake bit on that. When I ran for Senate, I was fourth in my race in spending, and I was able to pull it out. But that was the Senate race. It's much more difficult when you have to rely on television, and so it is what it is. All I can do is the best I can.
What year did you say you ran for Congress?
2002.
So, I was wondering why. Last time you ran for the state, no, that was 04. So I'm gonna get my years. Or is that the same year you ran for the
Same
House?
exact year. Same exact year. I did very well when I ran for Congress. I did very well in the area where I live, and my state representative died of a heart attack 6 days before the general election that same very year. So the state party put me on the ballot.
I do remember that now. Okay, she was running. Oh yeah. Okay. So you that. Hey, I forgot all about that when that happened down there. So why this race in particular? I mean, I've seen nobody's even in the state treasurer's office right now. Is that true? Nobody's running for that.
Oh, Young Boozer's running. Nobody's going to run against him.
Well, I thought. All right, he said it. Okay, he went 2010, 2018. and then had to sit out 4 years, and now he's running back for secretary. Okay, because somebody told me the other night that there was nobody in that office, and there was nobody in some other statewide office. The Senate, U.S. Senate race. Why do we have any bigger names than that? Shelby funding Katie. Katie. He's got her.
Yeah.
I was wondering why we didn't see anybody out there, but they got Shelby's war chest behind it.
Sure. Vote's going to be very strong, and this guy Durant has got a lot of money, and he's putting in there, and he's going to be strong too. It's going to be a competitive race.
Somebody tell me Ziegler withdrew from the governor's race. Is that true?
I haven't heard. Anything about that.
Told me that last night, and I said I've not heard that. I said I think he's doing this his whole life. I wonder how that race is going to turn out. So if you go back, you go into this auditor, what are you looking at doing? I mean, are you looking at making sure?
Well, for one thing, of course, running the office efficiently, also making sure that those that are selected in each county, the board of registrars, that I would have one selection in 66 of the 67 counties, would be someone who would be working diligently to make sure the rolls are clean. Those who are incarcerated or not, who are not supposed to be eligible, are not voting. Those are people who are registering to vote are not voting registering multiple times, those kinds of things. And also I want to make sure that the office is well funded. There's been a big, deep cuts in that office over the last 3 or 4 years. And from what I've been talking to with those in the office, there is a need for the original appropriations to go back in, because there are some expenses that they need to run the office efficiently to make sure that those audits or inventory is taken correctly. And so I think I have a good relationship with those who are chair of the general fund committee that would be making those decisions. And I think I could persuade them to at least put the money back in that was originally appropriated.
I didn't know that the had that much overvoting or over the voting selections. So how do we prevent voter fraud from taking place? What's the main
Well, that's
thing?
part of it. If the board of registers are keeping the rolls clean, that's going to make a big difference. Of course, having if there are problem areas, and in the past in our state we've had that, where we've had some ballot box stuffing and more people voting in a county than live there. That has happened in Alabama. You got to have folks in there watching to make sure these things are not happening. I think since the Republicans have taken over in 2010, I think there's less of that, because it would take an enormous amount of cheating to sway an election when Republicans are winning 60-40 in every election. So it's not as much of that, but I'm sure at one point in the last 10 years, the people of Georgia thought that they were pretty safe too.
Yeah, I mean, because every time I've went in and voted, I've had to show my ID. They mark it off, and and I just don't, I don't know what's taking place yet. But I mean, it's obviously some places. I remember the Mike Hill and Woodward race, 20 years ago, and had a lot of stuff coming. What punishment should we hand out for people that are doing that? I mean, because that's really still in our democracy.
Oh, I think they should be jailed. I mean, if they're doing something like that, that's a huge affront to us who are taking time off from our work and taking our time to get to the voting polls, to be there when we're supposed to be there, cast our votes, and to have someone who is cheating and doing something illegal. I think they should be punished to the fullest extent of the law, including jail time. Make an example out of them.
What do you want the voters to know about Mr. Glover when they go to the polls?
I think I would like for them to know that I'm honest. And I'm not saying that I'm honest and my 3 opponents are not. I think my 3 opponents are very good people. I like them. I think all 3 of them are conservative. But I think probably the main difference is that I do have a relationship with those who can fund the office to where it needs to be, to where it will run efficiently and make sure that these audits that people do care about, that state property is accounted for, is going to be accounted for in the upcoming years. And if that money's not there and they don't have the personnel to do it, it's not going to be done as effective.
You know, I wished, I've talked to, I'll still got one to talk to, but I've talked to all y'all so far. I wish this was a governor's race because gentlemen seem to have a lot more on the ball and know what's going on in this state. What I've heard. Yeah, I want to keep all your time. So like you're a busy man.
Sorry.
Thank you for giving me this time for talking to you, or let me get to know a little bit about you.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity.
And I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna post this for you. It'll go out on all the things, and then I'll cut it down into some individual clips, and then you can post. I've tried to, I was going around trying to post them for people in all the county Republican parties, and some of them told me, they said, we won't let you do it after the primary, which I thought was kind of dumb because it was like you'd want everybody to know who your candidates was. But I guess I don't want them to do it. But I'll give them to you, and then you can pass them out.
Okay.
And things like that. But good luck in your race. And
thanks, sir.
Yes, sir. Thanks for your time.
I appreciate it, Chris. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too.
Yes, sir.